Welcome to Pink Radio with Prestige. This is the place for you, the diva boss entrepreneur who needs quick tips on building your crave-worthy brand. This is your host, Nicole Doss, CEO of the Prestige Society, a membership organization for women entrepreneurs who believe in building powerful networks while slanging in their industries. So I want you to go ahead and grab your favorite cup of coffee and get your favorite tips right here with Prestige. Hey, girl bosses. I am so happy that you have decided to join us again for another episode of Pink Radio with Prestige. So listen, I know for you guys who are faithful listeners of Pink Radio, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to not only make sure that you are subscribing so you get notifications whenever we have our latest and greatest episodes, but I also want to make sure that you guys are taking the time to be able to give us some stars, right? So hopefully you would give us 5 stars. Doing these things really allow us to be able to be seen by individuals who also need tips for building their businesses. So with that, guys, go ahead and please give us our 5-star rating and let your girl boss friends also know that we are here to help them as well. So a couple of shameless plugs here. Now, we have closed our membership for the Prestige Society. It will not be opened again until March. So the really cool thing is that we have been in heavy Girl Boss working season. We started with our new members cohort, which is our incubator for Boss Academy. We just started this Monday. Girls are going in, working hard, focusing on who they are as a purposepreneur in week 1. And then we also kicked off our first roundtable for all of our members that happened just this particular week for all of our members. Can I just tell you guys something real quick? Because you know how I get so easily distracted and it's like squirrel. There are no trees moving in my backyard except for one. And I'm like, what is in this bush tree thing? So I am like eyes glued trying to see if something is going to emerge out from the bush and if I need to let out a scream or not. So if you hear me scream or eek or shriek, just know your girl's scared because something just came out of the bushes and I can't figure out what's going on. So if I sound distracted, I'm so sorry. So anywho, so we're super excited about the fact that our existing members, we kicked off our first roundtable of the year. We talked about the importance of strategic planning, why you need to build strategies. We talked about the different kind of strategies that are out there that you should be taking into consideration while building your business. So I am really excited because like I said, we've been working. We have a brand new group of Pink leadership going on. So we have our leadership retreat happening. That's happening January 24th through the 26th. We have the awesome, fabulous photographer, Samantha Bunting, who will be coming and capturing some awesome shots of us working and really getting our organizational goals together and building that strategy for it for the year 2020. So as we are in this awesome new year, I wanted to talk to you awesome Pink Radio listeners about consistency and the dream. So here's what I will say I noticed from my very awesome girl bosses that I help, which means that if I see the trend among them, that means that there's some of you out here who may also suffer from the same thing, and I want to be able to help you. So you ever have this really, really great idea, and you know it could be a possibly thriving business, and you try just a little bit to get it off of the ground, and then something happens, and then you say no, and then you go back to whatever that thing is in life. So whether it's going back to being a mom, whether it's going back to being a wife, if it's going back to working the 9 to 5, you choose other distractions to focus on. And I'm not saying being a mother or a wife or even holding down your 9 to 5 is a distraction, but if that idea that you have is what my awesome business bestie Elaine Gonzalez Johnson refers to as a God idea. So if it's your God idea and you keep allowing things to keep you from executing on your God idea, then those things may be used as distractions. what ends up happening is like you'll look 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, and lo and behold, you'll find that, guess what, y'all? That same idea has just remained just that, an idea. So what I think we have to focus on today, what we're going to talk about, is how you stay consistent, how you're able to use discipline to help you with your consistency. And of course, I don't believe in just telling you what you should do. I think that that is a very condescending way to connect with girl bosses. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that I've gone through so that you know I understand it, how I came from out of it, and then give you some 3 tips in hoping that it helps you as well. So even for the girl bosses that I've helped in the past where I can hear that they are being inconsistent in their efforts, I realize that one of the top contenders in their life is just other stuff. And it's not like it's other stuff that isn't important. It's like real life important stuff. But the reality is that we make time for things that we want to make time for. When you think of people who are really, really working their business, it wasn't because the business just easily landed in their laps and they're working the business. It's because whoever is working their business full-fledged made a conscious decision to work that business, has made a conscious decision to move certain things out of their schedule so that they're able to work the business. They have made arrangements for childcare so they can go and speak at this engagement, or they can go and vend at this engagement. There's all of these different conscious decisions, these little incremental decisions that were being made that ultimately snowballed into these into success. And the success is this, incremental instances, these little tiny instances of wins. It's not one big win. It's the accumulation of tiny wins that lead to bigger wins. And you know what happens with the snowball if it's rolling down, a mountainside of snow, it becomes bigger and bigger because the more that it's rolling on the ground of snow, the more that it is going to do what? The more it's going to accumulate more snow, which the accumulation makes the snowball bigger and bigger. That's how you have to think about your success. It's not about how do you do this one time, this one thing, this, single event that's going to then define your win. It's about how do you do these incremental things. And I used to poo-poo on those, right? I remember reaching out to Elaine, and if you have not listened to her podcast, she's at Mogul Mommy, so please go and write that in your notes so you can go and listen to that podcast as well, which is really awesome. But one of the things that I had said to Elaine recently was like, I'm tired of these nickel and dime wins. I want my one big win. And she said something that has forever changed the way I look at my wins, and that really drove this particular podcast episode because of things that came from that conversation. And she talked to me about being that faithful steward over my few so that God can bless my increase. And when we had real talk, we realized that there were certain things that were lacking. There were certain things that were falling through the cracks. There were certain things I really needed to button up at the state that I was in currently in order for me to be able to operate in excellence when I received my increase. And literally right after that phone call, I jumped on a live with my members and I shared that word with them, because one of the things that I don't do, number one, is I do not act as if I am more than what I am. Number two, I believe that if there's a lesson that I've learned, then it's my responsibility to share that lesson so that it can bless others. And three, nobody wants to be around somebody who's just not being authentic in their successes, as well as there are times of feeling challenged. So definitely, when Elaine said that, I wanted to share immediately. What was interesting about that conversation is it changed really my perception of where I am. And so, and it's interesting because once it changed my perception, I began to see an increase. And it wasn't like I began to see an increase a year later. Literally, I began to see an increase within a week. So I'm not here to tell you that if you do these things in a night or a week, you will too experience these things. I am giving you this information to say, change your perspective to see and change the way that you operate so that you can see results. But don't think that just because, our results are going to be matched. Your journey is your journey. What you're supposed to experience is what you're supposed to experience. The goal is for you to take these nuggets and have an awesome version of your journey. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so I have a few talking points that I wanted to go through, and they're going to be a little bit around like a little question and answer, okay? But it's a little weird because I'm asking and then I'm also answering. But nonetheless, this will help shape the conversation. So, one, why my dream ignites me? Because I wanted to ask myself these questions in a way to form like how I can share with you why consistency and the dream, they're like what that relationship really means. So I'm going to start off by talking about my dream. So the question is, why does my dream ignite me? Or telling you why it ignites me. So it ignites me because ever since I can remember, ever since I first gotten into the career of learning and development, one of the things that I found absolutely amazing, the one thing that really made me feel like I picked the right career, was when I would say, I love helping people connect the dots. I mean, I remember that moment. Not so much what I was teaching. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I was at PFH because that was my first real training job. I worked for Popular Financial Holdings. They were a subprime lending company, and we were right at that crux of real estate doing great things. But there's something about being at that crux. I mean, when you're right there at the highest point, when you have blown up the balloon so big that it's at its maximum capacity of air, there's nowhere left for it to go but to what? Burst. So this was a really interesting time for me because I really felt like I was where I was supposed to be. And as that happened, the real estate industry just fell apart, crumbled into a million pieces over years and years of EU regulations, or having an unregulated industry with really bad, horrible, fraudulent, and criminal practices that then impacted millions of Americans who were homeowners, who were going through tough financial times. And so when I think about that time, when you think you're good, when you think everything is great, but you're not really aware of the industry you're in, and then all of a sudden everything crumbles around you, it is a rude awakening because you start questioning life choices. So when I was working for PFH and I was in training and development, although I loved the aha moments, although I loved connecting the dots, when I lost my job, I was just like, should I stay in training and development? It was my first year there. I mean, not my first year, but my first round of in trying it. Prior to that, I was in HR, so I was really trying to say, do I go back? Do I try recruiting? Do I, I definitely know I didn't want to do HRIS anymore. So I'm like, okay, so maybe it's recruiting, maybe it's still training. I'm not really sure. So I got another job, and then when that job, because that job wasn't necessarily lending, but it was all of the title services that come with it. And so guess what? It's still in real estate, smarty pants for taking a job, still in the same industry. So what happened? That job crumbled. So when that job crumbled, and the first time it was really easy for me to find a job. The second time it wasn't. I was really, really questioning life choices. So I began to look at other ways for me to make money. Like, if I can't find a job in training and development, let me just try to reinvent myself. And what's so interesting about the reinvention was that I did not like reinventing myself. I realized that even if I couldn't find another job in learning and development, that was the thing that I absolutely wanted to do. So ultimately, I'll just go ahead and give you guys a spoiler alert. Your girl lands a job in training and development, and to this day, that is the career that I'm in. I manage a team of technical trainers who are all over the United States. So that is something that I absolutely love. I love to help people connect the dots. But there was something about having a seat at the table, something about sitting among executives, senior leaders that help me understand that if someone who sits at a very high position in the organization fails, there's certain things that they can do to bounce back. To go to another company, to tap their network and see where else they can go. But when it is their own company, when it is their blood, sweat, and tears that's responsible for payroll, there's a different connection to how well this business is going to thrive. There's a different drive in how are you going to impact the people. And I saw it because even with Popular Financial Holdings, it was the Carry-On family who ultimately owned Popular Inc. Popular Inc. is based out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and it was Richard Carry-On who actually came to say face to face, I am sorry that we are letting you go, and talk to us about how hard this decision is. So there's a difference when you own the company. There's a difference in how you try to really make things work. So what I was seeing at that time when I had left, or I had been let go 2 different times within 1 year due to the industry, and then going into, back into work and now working for a nonprofit, it was interesting. First, never wanted to ever work in a nonprofit again. That was like rule number 1. I'm just not that kind of person. I do not like working for a nonprofit. Doesn't mean I don't like doing good things for people. It just means that working for a nonprofit isn't for me. But number 2, I realized that I was being introduced to a lot of people in my personal life who were starting businesses, and their struggles and their impact to if their business wasn't successful was completely different than the chosen ignorance sometimes of executives who were just like, didn't care if they made really bad decisions, didn't care. It's like there was a difference. One is around survival, right? I need this money so I can feed my family because this is my business. Another one is I'm going to get a check every 2 weeks, and if I'm really complacent in my job and I feel really, really comfortable and I don't have any fear at all about me losing my job, then basically whatever happens, happens. And unfortunately for the company I worked for, that's what I was seeing, and it was very disheartening. So at the time, I had this aha moment that I really, really wanted to take that same passion for helping connect the dots for people. I wanted to help the female boss because I could sit there and see that even though women were really great at their craft, they weren't so great at their business acumen. And honestly, if I'm going to tell you I want to open up my own hair salon, the first question people may ask is like, well, Nicole, are you a stylist? Because the expectation is that you should be a hairstylist if you're going to be the only person working in your hair salon that now you own. But no one says to the hairstylist, are you great at business? But yet she's responsible for being the CEO of this brand. She's responsible for all of the marketing, all of the sales. She's responsible for all of the financing and bookkeeping. She's responsible for all of the hiring and the firing that goes on. None of that is questioned. So ultimately what ends up happening is that good old hairstylist is awesome at doing hair, sucks at business acumen, opens up a salon, and finds herself struggling. So one of the things during that time when I was like in this space of seeing this, I wanted to help the girl boss close those gaps, right? Connect the dots. So when I think about why my dream ignites me is because no matter what the stream is when it comes to the Prestige Society, we are all in a space, no matter if it's the podcast, if it's the Girl Guess What blog, if it's membership, if it's just, books, the planners, it's all around how I can help women connect the dots. Think about it. And I'll take it for the planners. The planners for me is about how do I help women connect the dots who tell me that they are not productive in their day. Okay, we have a solution for that. There's the connector. I helped you bridge the gap there. For women who don't know where to start with their businesses, we have an incubator to take it from your ideas from fruition to reality. Our accelerator, take your reality, generate income. So everything that we offer is around how to help to connect the dots. I share this with you because then, you get to a space where now it's time for growth. So one of the things that we're in right now is around, we need to expand, we need to grow because I can no longer do this on my own. And there's this space of, do we take full advantage of VCF, which is venture capital funding? Do we fundraise? Like, what do we do? And all that is scary because it's unknown territory, and ultimately it comes with people like with validation, right? So they have to say they like your idea enough to invest in it. And then your idea has to be profitable enough to then make a return for your investors. All of that is scary. When it's just my money on the line, that's one thing. When it's somebody else's money on the line, I'm like, oh, hold up. So all of those things are very scary. So when I wrote Why My Dream Ignites Me, the next talking point was why my dream scares me. And I know that for a lot of you, there's something that scares you about the dream that you have. I've talked about this before. I've written about this in Rock Your Life in my first book, but I have to just even go to this moment again. I will share with you another time and date about my thoughts around like positive visualization and vision boards and all that stuff because, I've written about these things because I used to be a very, 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 an advocate for those kind of things. Now I'm like, that's low key witchcraft, but that's neither here nor there. But having a plan is a necessity, right? The way I used to practice positive visualization, because I went to this coaching school that really proposed it. My husband used to call it voodoo, and I think he was the most ridiculous person in the world. But I would like light a candle, and I would just sit there and close my eyes, and I would try to visualize what it would be like to have my own company. So I remember seeing it so clearly that it was like I even had theme music. It was She's a Bad Mama Jamma. I felt like I was Vivica Fox in the opening scene of Two Can Play That Game. And if you guys are not like my age group, I'm sorry if you don't understand the reference. Google it and see if you can catch the reference. But if not, if you get it, then continue on with me, if you will. So I would always see it where I would open the elevator doors would open up. I'm dressed ever so flawlessly, business casual, of course. And I'm like, oh, I'm not in a suit. Okay, cool. I'm business casual. I'm comfortable and I'm cute. Feels great. Open the doors. A receptionist is there, and on the wall it just says Prestige. Silver letters, all in cursive. It just says Prestige. That's not even my font for my logo right now, but that's what was there. And I remember the receptionist was so happy. I remember, and oh my goodness, the reason why it's so funny is because my executive director for member success and learning and continuous learning, he was in my vision then, and he was like creating curriculum, which is hilarious because that's his focus now in an executive director position. But anyway, he was like, looking over the curriculum people. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, what happened that made me get to this point? Because in my mind, I wouldn't have left a well-paying job that was secure to take a risk to build this company. In my mind at that time, and remember, there was no Prestige Network. There was no Prestige Society. There was none of that. I just had an idea. Prestige. I had a company that was a marketing company that I called Prestige in the past, but like I didn't have a prestige brand, if you will. So all this stuff is just me closing my eyes with a candle. My husband swearing I'm doing voodoo, and I'm like, nope, that's not it. Let me just practice my positive visualization. So I'm sitting here and I'm seeing this, but as I am seeing each thing, my heart starts to race. And I start thinking about, I'm responsible for people's salaries. I'm responsible for their benefits. And I'm like really interested in knowing like what happened. How did I get here? Because for some reason, I just knew something bad happened in order for me to experience this. And it was the oddest thing. So literally, I no longer wanted to continue with it. I jumped out of it and I opened my eyes and I was like, nope, 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 don't want to do this anymore. So I had an accountability partner at the time because I was only doing this because it was homework from a class that I attended in New York City. My old roommate, Michelle Pyram, had a workshop called Live Your Life by Design, Not by Default. And I remember telling Tawana, who was my accountability partner, that I had this vision, and it like made me really upset because I don't know why I kept saying, I feel like something bad must have happened. Something bad must have happened. And she asked me one very simple question, and she said, why is it that you're afraid of success? And I thought that was the dumbest question. Like, who is afraid of success? And then after it like sunk in a little bit, I realized that's exactly what it was. So for me, even if I fast forward to today and I think about what ignites how my dream ignites me, but also how it scares me when I think about the growth that needs to happen, I realize that when you're trying to build something that is successful, that there is faith, one, that has to happen, but two, there's going to be some unknowns. There's going to be uncharted waters. And you have to really focus on what is it that ignites you more than what scares you, because then it brings me to my third point, which is, but my dream is a necessity. So what do I mean by that? So this is me. Why my dream is a necessity. So what I want you guys to think about as you're listening to this is, one, why your dream ignites you. Two, but even though it ignites you, recognizing that there's some little bit of a scary feeling that's attached to really going after your dream. But then, of course, three, which is, although it scares you, your dream is a necessity. So for me, I realized more and more and more that my dream is a necessity. So I'm going to tell you, one, why I realized it prior to the Elaine conversation, and two, what happened after the Elaine conversation. So December 6th, I did a post on Instagram. If you do not follow us on Instagram, please follow us on Instagram. We are at The Prestige Society HQ, which stands for headquarters. So just go ahead, follow us. And honestly, if you're a budding entrepreneur, I need your energy. I love to see what up and coming entrepreneurs are up to. So please follow me and trust that I'll follow back. I'm not that person that doesn't follow back. I follow back. So as I digress, so what happened is that December 6th, I posted a Instagram post about the differences and the gaps and earning potentials between Black, Latina, and non-minority female founders. And in that, the numbers were horrible. So for my beautiful Black female bosses, y'all make about $27.4K a year per firm. $27.4 thousand a year. A year. So for me, that was like, ooh, right? And that didn't even include things like revenue. That didn't include anything like what happens afterwards with, your operating expenses are deducted. None of that. We're just talking about off the top. Like, this is just what you get. So this is when you start calculating everything, this is what it is. Our Latina sisters make about 54, I want to say 54.1. It might be 54.1 or 54.3. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's 54 plus, we'll say, K a year. But then our non-minority sisters out here, they out here winning. 213,000 plus, like 2,000, like there's no number. It's like 213.1, 213.3. I don't know, but it's 213 and something else thousand a year. So when I saw that, I really got frustrated because of the fact that I said, we can sit here and talk about, oh, because non-minorities have so much more resources and they have so much more exposure and they have so many, but I got to tell you something too. It depends on what you're exposed to that determines how you operate. And one of the examples that I will always use will be the co-founders of Skim. So the co-founders of Skim, they basically decided that they wanted to go and get investors to create this newsletter around what the news is. And they wanted it to be a skimmed version of what everyone gets, because there just seems to be so much information out there. They were saying that, young millennials, especially young millennial women, did not know or did not have a lot of time to try to fish through all of the content that's available out there in the world of news. So they got investors. So you fast forward, and I looked at their earnings, $8.5 million they raised from fundraising. From that, their validation in 2017 was at $55 million with 40 employees. And then as of 2019, their validation was at, or their valuation was at 100 million. So when I thought about that, and I would ask women of color this question, okay, you have an idea, you want a newsletter, what's the first thing that you're going to do? Everyone says the same thing, that in all honesty, that I too thought, which is I'm going to start building content because I think of myself as a content creator. Number two, I'm going to build my email list. Not number one, I'm going to go to an investor. Not at all. So when you're wired differently, or because of what you're exposed to, and also thinking that you have the ability to have access to all these different things, and you don't see it as something that's going to be a challenge, or you don't see it as something that it seems like you're in fairy tale land, then you go for it and you automatically go to that space, and that's how you think. So instead of me harping on what we don't have access to, I don't mind grabbing a seat and pulling it up to the table and someone telling me, ma'am, what are you doing here? Because then I'll tell you what I'm doing here. I'll tell you why I'm here. I'll tell you why I'm a necessity to girl bosses. And not me, the Prestige brand, because I can't do it all on my own. I have a team, and because of my team, we're able to make the impacts that we make. So for me, that's important. For me, that's huge. I am a necessity. But guess what, girl boss? So are you. You are a necessity. There is a reason why God placed into your spirit this thing that you can't shake. If you're afraid to go after it, that is you. But let me tell you what's happening. Because you're afraid, you're not showing up consistently. And if you're not being consistent in your service, if you're not exuding excellence every step of the way, what ends up happening is that you lose momentum. And if you lose momentum, then customers lose interest, or lose trust, or lose visibility to your brand. If you're not consistent, then you're not seen. It's simple as that. If you're not consistent on social media, at some point you start losing followers. If you're not consistent on social media, at some point you don't even show up in anyone's feed. If you aren't consistent in your emailing, if you're not consistent in the times that you are delivering your products, listen, we're going to bring up Elaine again. You know what she says about her planners? Now we'll tell you, she pre-orders her planners. She can sell anything. Now, first of all, her planners are of awesome quality. But the one thing I always say about Elaine is that she has the power of selling. And everybody doesn't really see their gifts. Other people usually see it. So I tell her all the time, girl, you can sell. Post one thing, boom, everything's sold out. But the one thing that she did is she made sure that once she got all of those planners, not the pre-orders, but once she got those planners, she started selling and would send things out immediately. And people would ask her, oh my goodness, how did I get my planner so fast? And she said, I'm up against Amazon. I don't have time to play games. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. You have a solopreneur, a person of one, a person who's running multiple business all by herself, and she is already placing herself in competition with the world's largest e-commerce that is changing the game, not just for little people, but for the big retailers. They literally call it the Amazon effect. Like, do you all realize that in e-commerce and supply chain and logistics industry, they are calling the impact to retailing the Amazon effect? This girl boss of one has compared herself to Amazon and sees them as a competitor and works her business so that she can have a competitive edge against her competitor. How many of y'all doing that with y'all consistency? How many of you are doing that with your dream? How many of you are doing that with your purpose? How many of you are doing that so that you can make sure that you provide a blessing to your tribe? So now that we're in 2020 and a new decade is upon us, we're done. We're done with the games. We're done with playing safe. We're done with playing small. We're done with playing scared. You hear me? We're done with playing safe. We're done with playing small, and we are done with playing scared. We're done with it. So because we're done with it, guess what y'all going to do? Y'all going to get to work. You ready? So this is what we're going to do when it comes to you having to exude consistency, all for the dream. You are one. You got to get a clear vision for what 2020 is looking like for you, okay? That's number one. The reason being is because at this time, you probably have so many awesome ideas, but you haven't really tactfully executed on one. So if you want to capture everything all at once, I'm going to tell you right now that is going to be an epic fail for you. Keep in mind that your success is not about one big, huge push win. Your success is about these small iterations of awesome wins that you were able to have over time that are going to accumulate into larger success. So what is that one small thing you're winning at right now? And if you aren't winning at something right now, what is the one small thing you can begin to work on that will allow you to start seeing that the increments of winning? Okay, so figure out what that is and make it a clear vision. Stay away from anything that is ambiguous. Stay away from anything that is vague. Stay away from anything that sounds like it could be 10,000 things under one umbrella. I'm going to tell you why. And that's because there are 6,742 different versions of your idea, your brand, your you. There is nothing new under the sun. Okay? There have been networking groups forever. If you want to know, my mom's soror of Delta Sigma Theta, they just had their Founders Day. Alpha Kappa Alpha today is celebrating their Founders Day. What were they? A network of women, college women who all came together with an ideology or a philosophy about women in their social status, in their racial status, in their educational status, and they all created tenets and pillars on their network, also known as a sorority, where they were able to build camaraderie, goals, and work towards those goals together as an organization for years. AKA was in 1908. Delta Sigma Theta was 1913. Zeta Phi Beta is 1920. I don't know about SG Rose. Sorry, y'all. But I'm sorry, I really don't. That's not a slight of SG Rose. There's some really awesome SG Rose out there, but I just don't know y'all year. So with that, you figure, with all of that, there's nothing new. I didn't steal from them. They didn't steal from me. How could I? They're not time travelers. So it's like there's nothing new under the sun. People have come together and formed alliances and groups and memberships and all kinds of things for years. What makes it unique are the things that personally drive me based on what I see, what I feel, my experiences, what God has placed into my spirit. That is important. So for you, I really want you to think about what is it that makes you you. uniquely you, your business uniquely yours. Because when we try to, and I always say this, when I see people who say women empowerment, I get like, I roll my eyes. I know it's bad. Don't get mad at me, y'all, please. I don't mean it like to be like that, but I'm telling you the honest to God truth. I hear women empowerment and I roll my eyes and I'll explain to you why. There are so many facets that fall under that term that when you place something like that on an event, on a company, on an initiative, it's like, okay, but my number one question is, but you are going to empower me. I'm sorry, Alexa wanted me to know I have a meeting. I'm so sorry, y'all. It just stopped me in my tracks. So, my thing is that I always want to know, like, well, what is it that you are going to, everyone wants me to know that I have a meeting. There's like so much stuff happening. So anywho, when I hear women empowerment, I realize there's so many different facets that I can't figure out where I fit in. And like I said, because there's 6,472 different versions of women empowerment out there, there are people who are making it very clear as to exactly how they empower women. And they're making it easier for me to understand who I need to spend my money with. So if I know that you're focused on helping women with investments, ooh, you're speaking to me. If you just want to help women feel good, I'm not in a broken space, so I don't really need that. If you are about helping women thrive in their business, secure capital funding, like right now, that's like where my focus is on. I'm there. A couple of years ago, it might have been social media. Okay, cool. But when you're not telling me how you're empowering me, I can't. It's so vague that I'm not really sold on if this event is going to give me the tools I need to be successful in the areas that I'm interested in, so that I'm not buying. Confused buyers do not buy. So when you make your vision clear, you have to stay away from these buzzwords that are absolutely ambiguous because it's a buzzword and you think it sounds good. Make sure you are speaking specifically to your tribe. Who are you serving? Because you can't serve all. You can't. You're not God. You're just not. You can't serve all. Because everyone doesn't have the same interest. Everyone isn't in the same place. Everyone doesn't have the same focus. So you have to get very, very, very clear. Now, does that mean that you can't have multiple tiers so that you're helping people through a journey? Absolutely you can. But you're going to need to take some time. You got to take time in identifying exactly what that looks like. So you're not going to throw out everything your first time out. You're going to start building that so that you're building trust, building a brand name, building a brand identity. You're becoming a trusted resource to those who are in your industry. So definitely get that vision, make it clear, and when you're making a clear vision, stay away from anything that is ambiguous, please. 2, map out the work. So if you get a clear vision and you know there's something you absolutely want to do, you have to map out the work. What does that work look like? Now, use a planner, use a project Gantt chart, use a timeline. I could care less. Map out the work. When you think about building your strategies, you have to go from big as far as, how big the idea is into a smaller tactical thought process. Your big is going to be your vision. The smaller piece is going to be the work that it's going to take for you to get there. I want to lose 20 pounds. That's great. That's your end goal. Boo. How you going to get there? Oh, I guess I have to eat right as well as stay fit by working out regularly. Okay, can I do it once? Nope, you got to do it twice. Nope, well, how many times have to do it? Maybe 3 to 4 times a week. Oh, man, okay. How am I going to hold myself accountable? Oh, I'll get an accountability partner. These are the same things you have to do when it comes to working your business. I want to be able to create a marketing strategy. What is your marketing campaign going to be all about? I don't know. Maybe introducing people to what the business is. Oh, okay, what do I need to do? I need to put some information on my website so that when I post things on my social media, I am taking those likes and I am capturing them in a place that is not rented. Like, I don't know, Instagram. Why do I call it rented space? Because it could be here today and gone tomorrow. And just like Vine, if it went away tomorrow, do you still have access to your followers? Okay? So map out the work. Map out everything that you need to do. What are the strategies involved? What is the actual tactical activities that need to be done in order for you to get there? Most importantly, number 3, you need to anchor all of those things in dates. Because if you do not put a time to it, it will not happen. Because it always looks good when you can do it tomorrow. And yet we know tomorrow's not promised today. So we need to start anchoring those things in dates. Last but not least, you have to stay committed in knowing that your dream is a necessity. Because there's people out there who need you. There's people out there who don't have the insight that you have, who are looking for it, who see value in it, and they want to pay you for it, who can't make the cakes that you make, who can't make the balloon arches that you can make, who can't make the really cool, quirky sayings on a t-shirt that you can make, who don't have your eye of design, but they so desperately need it, who need that beautiful floral arrangement because Lord knows that, honey, I can't make that floral arrangement, but when I see it, it so makes my day so much better. These are all the things that people are waiting on. They're waiting on for you. And if you choose to allow yourself to get in the way, you're not just blocking yourself from your blessings, but you're blocking the blessings of someone else. And that is something that you should not ever stand for. So with that, y'all, I'm going to say, I think my new couch came for my new office. I can't wait to show you guys pictures. And if you follow me on Instagram, you shall see it. I think that's what all that noise was at my door. So I wonder if they plan on coming in to put it up, or because I got it from Wayfair, are they going to just leave it at my doorstep? So I think option B is the answer. All right, guys. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I hope you all find this to be helpful to you as you begin to really chart the course for 2020. I hope you all have a wonderful, awesome, and most of all, blessed day. Bye.